Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Just Chats. I'm your host, Uncle Dominic. Today, we're going to talk about something very interesting. And I always say it's very interesting because this is a feeling that often lurks in the shadows and of our daily lives, which is stress. Now, what is stress? I have looked up stress, and stress can define be many things. But pretty much the simplest way to say it is stress. We get stressed when things doesn't go your way. Okay, I'll explain again. You get stressed, you feel stress when things doesn't go your way, the way that you want to. So today we are going to talk about it. We're going to explain some ways how we can overcome stress, or some ways that we can make stress less painful. Okay, and today we have our guest. His name is Raj Khedun. Let's invite Raj to the show. Welcome, Raj. Hello,
Hey
Raj.
Dominic, Uncle
Welcome to
Dominic,
the
how's it going?
show.
Yeah.
Could you explain to our audience here a little bit more about you, Raj?
Yes, of course. So I'm a coach. I've been a relationships coach for the last 12 to 15 years, dealing with women, dealing with peak performance, health and fitness, and we're always looking at ways how to, optimize ourselves and our performance so that we can fulfill our potential, basically.
Great. Okay, so our topic today is about stress, right? And so, if for
Yeah.
anyone out there, I put a link to Raj's website, which is keepfitkingdom.com under there. So you please look it up later. Okay, so today we are talking about stress. What do you think is the definition of stress, Raj?
Well, stress, I think a lot of people see stress as a bad thing initially. And it can be seen as a bad thing, but it can also be seen as a good thing. So we could call stress like pressure. Now, if pressure is used in constructive ways, it can be great, right? It can be used to help you study, to reach a goal, to build a business, to build a house, to do anything, because nothing in life is achieved without some kind of stress.
Mm.
It all depends on if you're consciously choosing that stress or if it's an outside or an external stress that is put on you, then it's still a stress. But are you in control or is the external circumstance in control?
Oh, I like that part when you say, "Are you in control?" or the external part. So could you
Yeah,
elaborate more on that part?
yeah, of course. So, for example, say you're a student, and we coach a lot of students nowadays. You know, the competitiveness for students to do well at school, to get certain degrees and diplomas and so on, it can be very, very stressful. You have to do certain things at a certain time. You have to submit assignments within a specific time frame. It doesn't suit everyone, but yet, if you want to progress in that field, you have to do it, right? So you can align yourself with stress and get excited about it because you set the targets yourself, or where you would want to procrastinate and put it off is where you don't really want to do it. You don't really care about that outcome or that subject. So you're going to tend to put it off, put it off, put it off. So the stress builds up against you rather than you riding the tsunami wave of stress to help you in a kind of exciting way.
So, so in a way, it was saying stress will always be there, but we should always, take it slowly. But in the end, if we don't, we keep accumulating it. In the end, it just bursts out in bubbles, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, but I think the most important thing is absolutely the most important thing is to understand what are you trying to do.
Mm.
When you've got various factors of your life under control, like your diet, your health, your fitness, your family, your relationships, you can control stress to a large extent.
All right, so I'm gonna give an example from where I'm living right now in Taiwan. Um,
Yeah.
Education is kind of the thing where people want, well, parents want their children to achieve and to get the best they can. particularly if they need to get good grades to get into good colleges or good universities in the future. And so a
Yeah.
lot of stress has been put on them for certain at age levels because they have to pass certain tests, or to get into a top high school in Taiwan they need to get really good results, and this causes a few problems, right? Which
Mm,
the problems are students committing suicide, mainly because the stress is there. And we look at it in a certain way. For example, if I look at it, kids who committed suicide, they tend to, for example, they probably get like 90 on their test. It's still an A, but it's not like the top result they want or the parents want. And
mm,
so they create this kind of stress, and because of this there are now some parents who like, oh, we don't want to give stress to kids, and so we don't want to give them stress, we just let them do whatever they want. And when this is kind of the opposite of what's happening, and then we create another group of students who pretty much like, I don't care what's going on in life, I'm just going to do whatever I want. So it kind of creates another different kind of attitude, and then at the same time this puts stress on other people, right? So
yeah.
what do you think about that?
Mhm. Such a, it's a great um, example. It's a great analogy. I think when you, for example, when you work as a team, if you work in a team can be a family, it can be a friend who you're, building a business with, it could be colleagues at school, that you have to be on board with the same idea, the same goal, the same target. And you can be creative, you can be individual, you can be as individual as you want. But if you don't have the same target in mind or the same goal in mind, it's going to create lots of stress, which is very, unnecessary. Um, so I think understanding a student's motivation for being in that class in the first place is also an important factor in helping marshal people's energies towards the same, unified goal.
Well, as we get older, as we get older and become start working, we start worrying about other stress like financial concerns. And this becomes create things like debts and stuff, or job security, and you feel like, how can we have a good day when we are constantly thinking about this kind of problems?
Mm,
And people already give some, there are lots of ways how to overcome stress in this way, by saying there's no stress at all. If you think there's no stress at all, just go to work, be happy, and things will work out. Oh, at the same time, in my field where we teach students every day, and if a teacher goes to work and thinks that, oh no, I'm gonna meet with so and so, my life is gonna be like, oh, that student is gonna do so and so, and then I'm gonna have a terrible class because I keep thinking that way. So in a way, if I don't think about that, I'm thinking, yes, it's gonna be an exciting class. I go into the class, I will have an exciting class, even though that student poses a problem, but it's not a problem because I already told myself that it's going to be an exciting class.
mm.
So,
Yeah,
Raj, what do you say about that?
absolutely. Pre-framing the kind of scenarios and the situations you want to live out in life, as I think Ray Dalio, the very famous, investor, um, financier, he wrote in his book Principles. Ray Dalio, you can look it up on
Mm.
YouTube and Amazon and so on. And he's mentioned many great principles. For example, visualizing how you want your future to be. So if you visualize ahead what you want your future to be in terms of job, in terms of, feeling happy on your job, meeting the right person, being harmonious and happy in your relationships, those are things you've got to kind of precondition your mind for ahead of time. Then you can expect those things, and the more vividly you visualize those things in advance, the more likely they're going to happen the way you imagine it.
Hmm. I like that. So actually a lot of people do that. They practice that a lot, quite often. And
Yeah.
sometimes it goes to a certain way. Well, I was thinking about it actually this very afternoon. It's like, because people are often thinking about the future, like the future. I'm preparing this for the
mm,
future, so things will be better, and what just like a pre-framing. And at the same time, when we keep doing that, we forget about the present, and then
mm,
we create a certain kind of stress that is right now, it's happening right now, but we're putting it away because we're saying, okay, in the future it's not gonna happen. I'm gonna save towards it or whatever, and then but there's a huge problem happening right now, and people tend to
mm.
be unhappy, in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it all depends on your level of awareness. Like, how aware are you?
Mm,
Like, how aware are you of your mind and your goals? And, are you, some people are committed and some people are not. Some people say they want to achieve this and that, but they don't really, because they don't have any plan to really do it, day by day. That if you say you're going to go to the gym 5 days a week and you write it down, but do you look at that list every day to keep, to make sure you're on track?
mm.
Or do you just look at it once a week and then say, oh, I only went once to the gym this week and I didn't go for the rest of the days? Well, why didn't you? You set the goal, so you should remind yourself of your important goals so that you're more likely to do them.
So pretty much you're saying we need to identify what we're writing, or what we are framing
Yeah,
in the work. So we need to remember the things that we have done, supposedly, right?
correct. Warren Buffett, the great investor, he said, you've got to set a North Star goal and keep it front of mind. You've got
Yeah,
to set a North Star goal and keep it front of mind. Yeah.
it's kind of like saying the same thing, like managing stress is an ongoing process, and we have to keep on thinking about it, and how to like, yeah, how to relieve ourselves from stress sometimes. And I
Yeah.
told my students many of time there are different ways to relieve stress. One of the ways are quick and simple, which is spend your money, right? Buy whatever you want, you're happy, you're stressless, right? But at the same time, it creates a certain stress. If you spend too much money, then you're out of money. But that's a short-term happiness. The long-term happiness is doing something else, right? I actually looked up, I think it was yesterday, 'cause I asked one of my colleagues, do you have stress in life? He told me, no, no stress. I was like, what? No stress? Yeah. I was like, how come? I was like, I was thinking that because he's older and he should have, experienced life in different ways than I have, and um,
Mm.
how his stress in life, and how does he handle it. And he told me he has no stress. I was like, what? No stress at all? Not even financial? Not at all? I was like, wow. So imagine living a life about 60 plus years with no stress. That's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm only 40 something years old, but I feel stressed every day pretty much. And so, Raj, what are your ideas on that? Like, there are people who have
Um,
no stress at all in life.
well, that's, it can be good, it can be bad. If you have no stress, maybe you don't have enough interesting things to do. Maybe you don't have enough exciting targets to reach, right? Life is like a roller coaster. You have ups and downs, right? But you wouldn't appreciate the balanced, calm moments if you didn't have the high adrenaline, you know, spike moments where you're at the top of the roller coaster and you're just, your knuckles turn white and you're nervous as hell. If you don't have that, how do you appreciate the placidity and the calmness? Because there's ups and downs in life all the time, isn't it?
I
Um,
avoid
if
roller coasters if I can. They're just scary. Too much stress that comes from it.
Wow, yeah, they can be, but like if your friend or your colleague who you mentioned, he's in his 60s and so on, um, he may have a cheerful disposition. When you're cheerful and you keep happy, stress, slips off you like a water off a duck's back,
Mm.
because you kind of take it in your stride. It's like, well, I'm a happy person. I'm a positive force for good in nature in the world. So whatever comes, I'll deal with it. I'll learn what I need to do to learn to overcome the stress, and I'll move on to the next thing. you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think
some
that's
people
how.
take,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, some people take it in stride. They can handle stress more easily, but there's maybe certain mental, kind of tricks, hacks that he's taught himself, maybe even unconsciously, that he keeps using, and he doesn't even know what he does. Could be.
I guess that comes to also to what you do right now, right? So what you're doing right now is also helping people how to manage their stress. And as I was looking up at other ideas on how we can people can release stress, the general idea people do to release stress, which is pretty much exercising regularly and also meditation or some
Yeah.
relaxation techniques.
Yeah.
So that comes to you, Raj, in what you do. Could you tell us a little bit more about
Okay.
your company and what you do to help people relieve their stress or any things in their life?
Well, yeah, it's a broad question. We might be on this one for a few minutes, but um, the overarching aim of Keep Fit Kingdom is to help people live to 100 years old happily and healthily. And to do that, you're going to need to know a few things, a few core fundamentals.
Mm,
Um, they're not taught in school, unfortunately, and that's why people are left to kind of guess and just experiment with things. Experiment with doctors, medicines, prescribed medicines, having all kinds of diagnostic checks in the hospital, X-rays, ultrasound, and so on and so on. But there are other ways, more natural ways that you can reduce stress and live a more simple life while still accelerating your own evolution and appreciation of life, and
mm.
share that with other people. Um, I think in the future, energy medicine is going to become more of a thing, rather than relying purely on pharmaceutical prescription meds. So you said something earlier about exercise. That is absolutely key. I think there's no one who would try to refute or deny that everybody should be exercising at least 30 minutes a day.
And you
You
wrote
know,
a book about it
so
as
whether
well.
that's walking,
Did
yeah, we wrote a book called "How Squats Can Change Your Life,"
you? Yeah.
and that's all about how using body weight squats or weighted squats in a gym or at home with a barbell, it actually creates a climate of um, brain health. Brain chemicals get released when you do heavy weight training, right? And you feel good. You feel psychologically well. And you'd say, well, where was the medicine? There wasn't any. It's all in your brain, right?
Mm.
But you need to be able to tap into that with certain amount of effort. If you don't breathe hard enough for long enough, you're not going to release the hormones in your upper brain. And then instead of exercising, people turn to diversions, TV, Netflix, and chill. Running around to the doctors here and there, but because they don't make a solid daily effort to exercise in many cases. Regular exercisers will tell you that many years they didn't have to see a doctor, or for long stretches or long periods they didn't have to take medicines.
Mm.
And why is that? Well, the school system and the government system and the medical system still debating this.
I would say people get lazy sometimes. It's
Yeah.
just it, an idea where if I can do something more comfortable at the same time, I would rather do that
Mm.
than pursue something that takes a bit more effort.
Yeah.
It kind of applies to like sometimes when I teach my students. For example, today, example, one of my students asked me to grab something for her when it was right in front of her. She didn't want to reach
Mm.
out, stand up, or get out of her chair to get it. Instead, she asked me to do it, which I'm actually pretty far away from it. And
Mm.
I asked her why. She's and she's just pretty much lazy. So anyway, I did it for her. I grabbed the stuff that she needed and gave it to her. Um, But I feel like sometimes, most of us are like that. If there's easier way of doing things, we tend to
Mm,
want to do it instead of think thinking something is much more healthier. For example, if I know that exercising is super important, but at the same
mm,
time, if I have a show to watch on Netflix or anything, I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna watch that show first. But sometimes
mm.
I put it into this idea where when I go to the gym to exercise, I can actually put my phone there, I can actually watch my show, and I can exercise at the same time. I get double the benefit. So this is how I think sometimes. But
Okay.
it causes another problem when I'm out of shows to watch. I'm like, I don't want to go because there's nothing to do there while I'm exercising.
Mm, yeah. Right.
So it's kind of an
Yeah.
external factor to help to motivate me to go exercising sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, some people, if you look at, athletes, high performance athletes, they're always looking at ways how to leverage their time, meaning try to get as much accomplished as possible in the periods of time that they have. So, for example, instead of them watching Netflix on the treadmill, for example, they might be visualizing their next game or their next,
Mm.
you know, accomplishment they want to do in the gym or their next, technique they want to practice on the basketball court. So they might use that time while they're doing cardio to be busy in their mind, visualizing things how they want it to go.
That's
You
the
know,
pro
so
way, pro thinking. Yeah, that's good.
yeah, yeah. I mean, anyone can do it. I mean, you could be a musician, you could be a student who wants to play in an orchestra, or be an athlete, or be a teacher, or practically any profession. You can still use the mind to visualize and pre-frame things. Even, for example, what you're going to cook for dinner, you can put it in your mind. I'm going to have this and this and this, and it's going to be easy. Lay out this ingredient, that ingredient, that ingredient, and by the time you get home after your workout, if you're in the gym, you see how everything seems to go in the way that you visualized it.
Yeah, it's kind of like one. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Once you pre-frame certain things, it just makes it easier because you already know what's going to happen, and
That's
you
right.
when you move, it kind of works towards it,
That's
and
right.
makes it easier, right?
That's
So,
right.
Raj, I'm
That's
kind
right.
of interested. Like, what got you started in Keep Fit Kingdom? Like, what makes your mind start thinking like I'm gonna start doing this? I'm gonna start helping people out there. So, how did it come
Yeah.
about?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I've always been interested in fitness and anatomy, human anatomy specifically. Um, I liked biology in school, but I wasn't satisfied with the explanations they're giving in the books. And if you pick up a lot of anatomy books now, they still leave a bit, to be desired in the sense that it's kind of they talk about the body, they talk about anatomy, but how does that apply to you? How do you apply these ideas to yourself to make yourself better?
Hmm.
It's always like a separation. There's a distinction between what's in the book and it's got nothing to do with you. This kind of separation is kind of strange. So I thought, what do people need to know to make it, really simple health and fitness? What do you need to know? Like, you need to know that you're motivated because if you're not motivated to change, you won't change anything. See, I
So,
know it sounds very, yeah, sounds
so
very
we're
simple,
saying you're
but
pretty motivated at that time, and you want to change something, right?
that's right. That's right. One of the big reasons why I wrote that book, How Squats Can Change Your Life, you can find it on Amazon and so on, Barnes and Noble and all those other outlets. It's because I used to get terrible colds when I was young.
Hmm.
I used to get a cold, like a flu, right? In the UK, in London, where I live, it's known as a great green country. Can be very damp in the winter as well. Um, I used to get these terrible flus that would last 2 weeks, right? And it would happen twice a year, once in October and once in March or April when the weather patterns change. And this was so like it affected my throat, affected my ears. I was practically deaf for 2 years, for 2 weeks every
Mm.
time. And I was thinking, this is crazy. Not everybody who suffers from flus has such a bad reaction to it like I was having. So I set about looking at exercise, how exercise can help sort of minimize these effects. And then I came into, understood about how heavy weight training can boost your immune system and
Mm.
your nervous system. And when I started doing these things regularly, I noticed that all of these colds and flus and bugs and whatever that everybody is having, it's just disappeared. It just vanished. Like, you know, they never existed for me. Um, but I have to say, it's with, consistent regular practice when you do these things, then you notice the full benefits.
It's always the consistent part.
That's it.
That's it.
And
Yeah,
consistency is what most people have difficulty with.
definitely. Um, for all those out there, if you didn't know about this before, I did actually had a session with Raj earlier this week, and he has this program that he does with Kid Fit Kingdom. So if you guys have interested in it, please look him up for it. He did something with me called 7 minutes to 7 minute to bliss. Did I get it right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
and it was kind of amazing, at the same time it makes things very different, and how to be more relaxed when I did it with him. And I when I did it with him and without him for a couple of days, it's actually pretty, changing. I wouldn't say in the sense that I am already reaching the life changing moment yet, but it has a little bit change in my life. Say that. So, Raj, could you tell us a little bit more about your meditation technique, or things that you have run with me, and how does it
Yeah,
help people with stress as well, overcoming stress?
absolutely. Well, Dominic, I mean, the interesting thing about this is that you did this method with us off camera, and you saw how quickly you started to respond to it. It was like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and you already start to feel quite profound effects mentally, isn't it?
Yeah, I was actually shocked.
Yeah, yeah. And this special breathing method is called a metaverse breathing method, 7 minutes to bliss. It decreases stress and anxiety by 60% or more in 3 minutes or less. And it's been proving highly successful with the people that we're teaching and that we're coaching. Um, it's something which is so simple and so easy to do. We've engineered it and developed it over the last 6 years or so to make it as easy and accessible as possible for most people. Um, Many people have tried many different kind of techniques, breathing techniques like box breathing or kumbhaka, which is breath retention, Wim Hof breathing, using cold showers or cold ice baths to diminish stress, control anxiety, and things like that. But what we find from most people, they don't keep up those practices regularly because, number one, they don't have easy access to a bathtub full of ice cubes. And number two, um, if they did, I don't think in cold, countries they would really look forward to doing it every day. um, so the method that you went through, that you did with us, 7 minutes to bliss, it doesn't require anything like that. It's very simple. It's very easy. The results are unanimously, from all the experts that we've taught, replicable and work. It works every single time to reduce anxiety and stress drastically.
Yeah, I
Um,
found it really amazing because we did it in audio form. Like, there's no video required for anything. I don't need to be in your presence. And when you guide me through the phone call, um, yeah, in those few minutes, I actually feel, pretty relaxing. And there was no, you mentioned monkey mind going on. And so pretty much like text, there was stress free. in a way you say
Yeah.
it's tax free as well. There's no taxes towards my body, and I tend to, if I when I start doing this every morning, it feels kind of relaxing. Like it gives me a
Yeah.
good start to the day. Yeah.
So exactly. I think more and more is becoming known about holistic health and natural ways to enhance your mind and your emotions and your health overall. Um, this method, we're coaching people every day, and you can see the feedback on. If you go to keepfitkingdom.com, you'll see a tab on the top that says 7 minutes to bliss. If you click that, you'll find out more information about it. You'll see testimonials from eminent people in the field, including the NHS, including people in the health and wellness space, psychotherapists, and so on. You can book a session there as well, either with myself or one of our coaches. And it's just a really surprising way, a very easy way to get your mind and emotions under control. Um, and it's very pleasant, and you can do it every day. You can do it several times a day. There's no limit. There's no um, contraindications as such, unless you've suffered from hyperventilation, then we'd have to coach you through it step by step. But once you've learned it, you know, it's really, really effective to do as often as you want.
And it is for all ages, for all people as well, right?
Yeah,
It's for yeah.
yeah. Men, women, children, pregnant mums. You can be, you're in Taiwan and we're in London. You know, it worked on you. We're
At different
trying it
time
with
zones
people
too.
in Korea.
Yeah. But
Huh?
what I really meant was because when I practice it by myself and I try it with my students, it actually has a kind of profound thing for them as well, because they find a different way of overcoming their stress in their school life. Like if there's a test coming up
Mm,
or there's a presentation coming up, so it's kind of give them a way to step out of it, think about how they can produce things better, and it makes it easier when it comes to presentation wise.
yes,
So I think it's very useful for
that's right.
all ages, like right,
Mm,
Raj mentioned, and particularly for me in my field, I would say for the students and for the teachers. Oh, I this is kind of like, you know pre pre-teaching method, where before you get into the class you need to keep your emotion in check, your face in check, and everything's ready. So at the same time, if you're doing this technique that Raj has mentioned, please look it up. It's worthwhile. It's amazing. You get it ready before you open the classroom and get in there, and then it's like, wow, nothing can stop you,
yeah,
pretty much.
yeah.
You just go in, and
Have
there's
you
a
tried
wall in
it?
front, you just get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you just did you think it was something you could try with the students? I mean, what do you think? Do you think it would help the
I have
dynamic
done
of
with the
the field?
students. At first it was kind of a bit difficult because I was like, why do we have to do this meditation stuff? It's boring. I'm gonna fall asleep and stuff like that. Of
Yeah,
course, there's this
yeah,
uh generic idea that when people do these kind of things, that's gonna happen. And
mm,
I had the same idea as feeling as well when I first started with Raj, and
mm,
well, I was surprised by it, for example. And this definitely works for the students. So I asked them, just humor me, do it with me, and then if you don't like it, fine. It's just a one-time thing. If you like it, then this is an idea for you guys to get by,
mm.
or extra stuff to get by when you're encountering presentation stuff, which is pretty much every month they have to do a presentation for me or for the other teachers. So this is one way to overcome it. So yeah.
That's right. That's right. How did it go that first time? Did some take to it? Did how
Well,
did it?
it's always for students. Why nowadays it's always the negative part that comes up first, and they were always like, But after, I would say, uh, half of the class actually,
Mm.
I would say they really participated with it, and
Ah,
a quarter of the class probably actually thinks it's nonsense, or they just pretending to go through it but not really doing it. And probably the other quarter is actually just, I don't care what teacher is doing right now. I'm just gonna sit down and watch everybody. So
Yeah.
I didn't care so much at that time. I feel like if there's half or at least 10 students that does it, it'll be already amazing, you know. So it's just like, you know, getting students to understand that there are some ways to overcome stress, and that's good because some students need it, you know, and some students
Mm.
probably don't understand what is stress yet. You know, once they reach that level, then we have a whole different idea of talking, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, in Tai Chi, in China, in Hong Kong, and places where they have Tai Chi, they do communal Tai Chi in the parks or in the
Oh yeah, we have it
playgrounds.
here as well.
Um, oh, yeah. So you could try it as a trial in and tell your school or your whoever manages that subject or that part of your class
Mm.
or your school. You could say, look, can we do this for a week? For 5 or 10 minutes and see what happens, and just make it like a mandatory thing for just a week trial and see what happens to the mind and the performance of the students.
Yeah, there's a lot of schools that actually still do it, like with kind of like morning exercises or morning meditation, and but some schools just avoid these kind of things mainly because they think it's a waste of time. Uh, Even though it's just 3 minutes or 5 minutes of their school time, but still some schools just is like, no, it's difficult. But some schools do it, and I like it when the schools does it. It just makes it much
Yeah.
easier. Like right now my school does something with music, so they will play music at certain times, and when you hear this music, you know what you need to do. And so there's a cleaning
Mm,
time, and so the music they put during the cleaning time is actually pretty upbeat. It makes you want to clean. And so
mm,
I remember when they first started it, when they put out the music, they put a very boring music during the cleaning time, and students kind of like, I don't want to clean. But eventually, when they
yeah,
change the music up, it's like, oh, now they get it. You know, there's a cleaning time, so they
yeah,
know what they need to do.
mm,
So I guess
yeah,
it's very useful. Besides the music time, I think meditation techniques should be practiced in a lot of schools. And you know, in the
mm,
daily life, you know, if we have time, or actually find the time to do it. It's only a few minutes in your life, so it makes it much easier. You know, it doesn't take a lot of
that's right.
effort as well. So
Exactly. Very well said. Very well said. And I think you can also say if people don't like the word meditation because it sounds like boring and falling asleep and all that. You could say it's a form of energy control or energy management.
mm,
We've had time management for decades, but that doesn't always work. You need a way to be able to now address people's emotions and energy. What's the
mm.
easiest, quickest way to do that? This is the quickest mind altering method that we have ever seen working on people for real. So, we're glad that you managed to experience it. And we're happy to help encourage other organizations and other, individuals experience the benefits for themselves as well.
Because you know, there's many ways out there to overcome certain things and get better in your life, but sometimes the most easiest one is probably right in front of you. And I wouldn't know
Yeah,
anything much about meditation if I haven't talked to you. Well, I do know that meditation helps. It changes your lifestyle. But if I have not approached you, or you have not approached me, and I've not talked about it, I probably wouldn't have done it at all, even though I know
yeah,
it's right in front of me. And this kind of brings us to
exactly.
the next different whole topic. We always tend to know the solution to things, like the solution to overcoming stress, but people don't do it. Why do you think that is? Besides being lazy.
Um, such a great question. I mean, certain people feel stress more than others. Some people who are very sensitive to, want to have a successful life or a successful day. They want to be as positive as possible for their wife and children. So they would be more kind of interested to learn how to lower stress. Why? Because they want a better quality.
Oh, we Rush, you broke up there. Hey, Rush, can you hear me? Oh no. So hopefully Raj gets back in. Right. But in terms of this, like what Raj had mentioned before earlier, that we need to pre-frame a lot of things that to get ready before we go on in our life. And it's actually very difficult because, well, it's not very difficult. If we pre-frame things and when we get into it, it makes things an idea and makes things easier for us to go through. And I think that that's what it is. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes when we, in our daily lives, when we work, when we go to schools, whatever, there's a lot of things that it's in our mind and it stops us from thinking a lot of things. And same time with this, we need to not just forget about it. I think what Rush was going to mention was, as a parent or as teacher, as students, if we have some kind of goal that we really want to achieve when we get into it, then we should have done it. We should do it anyway, because we know that it is very important. Okay, so for my audience out there, um, I'm very sorry that Raj has disconnected. Probably some issues on his side with the internet. It does happen nowadays, but don't worry. You can go to his website www.keepfitkingdom.com. I put the link right down there. Please look up his link and go to his website. There's lots of ways. Please contact him on it, get in touch with him, and then you can learn this meditation technique and other things that he can help you or even motivate you in your life, right? And once we do this, it actually can help you change it. Oh, Raj is back. Let's have Raj come back in again. Hey, Raj, we lost
Hey,
you there
sorry,
for a minute.
a microsecond. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was explaining to the audience about your website a little bit more, and explaining a little bit what main things that you mentioned, your pre-framing, and probably an idea that you were saying that if we have some kind of goal in mind, no matter what the circumstances is, we will still do it. So, but I do have one last thing for you before we end the session. Could you, in short, explain to everyone or advise to my students out there, how can they overcome stress, or how come they navigate stress in life?
That's the question. I mean, the multi-million-dollar every everybody's asking build performance thing. So
Now you owe me
the
$1 million.
amazing thing, something out payment platform. The thing is that, for example, it's a new thing. It's illness. People diminish stress quickly, without fail. There's, we're not with every single human being that we coach, whether they're from Taiwan, whether they're from Japan, Korea, Singapore, India, America, England. It's the same. So that tells us the fundamentals of energy. If you don't into that, that's, so this is a bit hard. I hope you're okay with it. It's pushing the envelope a little bit, um, but you need to learn from your sense and your body. Once you switch off the switch of stress, so much,
Hmm.
right? And if you could do that within 3 minutes, you did. I think you
Hmm. That's it. Thank you, Raj. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today and helping us to understand a little bit more about stress and how we can overcome it. Well, audience out there, everyone, viewers, please check out Raj's website, kitfit.com, kitfitkingdom.com, and approach him and get in touch with him on how to get the 7 minutes to bliss ways of technique to overcoming stress. It's amazing. Thank you everyone for coming to the show again. Please stay tuned to our next episode next time. And I wish everyone have a great day. And goodbye, everyone.